Hello, welcome Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 28 Globalization, let us start our lecture with topic Features of Globalization, and our subtopic is Global Civil Society and Nation State. Civil society is viewed as a sphere of society distinct from the state, with forms and principles of its own. The institutions of civil society include the church, education, trade unions, and work, and other organizations which act to a lesser or greater degree independently of the state. Therefore, civil society has been the arena of social and political protestation movements, particularly movements such as human rights, animal rights, environmentalism, trade unionism, and peace movements. With global interconnectedness, civil society initiatives, be it human rights or environment organizations or movements, have gone beyond the local. They have created a global space. These spaces are delineated by networks of economic, social, and cultural relations, and they are being occupied by conscious actors in physically separated locations who link together in networks of particular political and social purposes. There are many international organizations which network over distance traversing international boundaries. In 1909, there were 176 private international associations. By 1951, they had multiplied to 832, and in 1985, there were at least 4,615. However, such a high figure can be misleading because NGOs can be anything from the International Bottle Collectors Society, the International Committee to Catholic Nurses, to Friends of the Earth International, and Amnesty International. But the important point is that each organization has created a global arena outside of the purely national interest, in which common values, aims, concerns, and even ideologies are discussed and acted upon. But it is the large and better organized NGOs such as FOEI, Greenpeace, Oxfam, and Amnesty which can be seen as having the greater influence on national governments and therefore the autonomy of nation-state action. By undertaking campaigns beyond their own frontiers, they help to change the global agenda. NGO members can bypass their own governments and act directly in global politics and thus open up a new arena for political participation. In this way, government lose their traditional role as the sole external representatives of those they govern, and this weakens in part their claim to legitimacy. Also, global actors such as MNCs, international regulatory organizations like WTO, and financial organizations like IMF and World Bank have all produced arena which exert influence on nation states and function both within and without states. This has raised questions about whether the nation state's legitimacy and authority are eroded. The extreme positions on this issue have pronounced nation state as dead. Rousseau does not take this extreme position but argues that there has been a shift from industrialism and international politics, where the nation state dominated global relations, to an era of post industrial and post international politics, where the nation state has to share global relations with international organizations, transnational corporations, and transnational social movements, making the state and its local needs subservient to global forces. Robert Gripen argues that the process of globalization is the result of a permissive political order which generates the stability needed to encourage connections by the exercise of power between the hegemonic nation states. Therefore, the present era of global interconnectedness has been achieved due to the existence of a stable and secure world order in which the hegemonic liberal democracies utilize military power and supremacy for economic and political purposes. Glippen's primary factor is therefore of a political logic which views the process of globalization as depending upon the rise and decline of hegemonic power and the existence of a secular, secure world order that political equilibrium produces. Now let us move to the next point, globalization and social change in India. Any revolutionary transformation in society brings in its wake both challenges and opportunities. This is true also for globalization. Note that these challenges are confined only to a developing society like India. The developed world is also not immune from them, as it too faces the challenges of globalization, only its character is different. In the developing societies, the tensions and the anxieties on account of globalization are primarily economic, which spill over to the anxieties about culture and identity. In the developed world, culture seems to top over all other anxieties on account of globalization. In Europe, we witness this in the crescendo of debate on multiculturalism and in the revival of the ideology of the right and the racial cultural exclusiveness. In India, however, the cultural and the ethnic aspect of the challenges of globalization do exist, but these are in most cases derivatives of the anticipated unpredictable consequences to the economy, polity, and social structure. The attribute of globalization has social structure and political consequences. In terms of social structure, India remains essentially a rural agrarian society. Only about 30% of our population is urban, and the pace of urbanization remains slow. The addition to our urban population comes mainly from the rural poor, who migrate in search of employment. They remain marginalized in the urban economy and hold the lowest position in the urban social structure. Thus, a major challenge that globalization is likely to pose to our social structure is related to the nature of inequalities in the society. We witness these inequalities at several levels, such as between the village and town, between the middle classes and working classes, between males and female, between marginalized ethnicities and the dominant caste or communities, and between the mobile metropolitan diaspora and the illiterate masses in the villages, urban slums, and at the periphery of the tribal lands. How is globalization going to affect these sections of our society? Its pace at present is no doubt measured and slow due to the choice of policies and also because of the limitations that our social structure itself imposes upon the pace of globalization. But the challenges are likely to grow and pose serious problems in the future. The impact of globalization on the structural changes in the society comes generally through the changes in the economic policies. India, since independence, has been following a policy of import substitution and inward-looking market economy. This policy handicapped the economy in global competitiveness, in the manufacturing sector and in exportable commodities production, but its focus upon higher education in science and technology and agricultural infrastructures did compensate the loss. It is evident in the Green Revolution, in agriculture, in our growing strength in the sectors of information technology, the professions, the rising middle classes, and in the space research, which has added an edge to our growth in telephony, television, and mass communication. Also, the investment in the capital intensive sectors such as steel, petrochemical, power, etc., have generated an economic and technological potential strong enough to cope up with the exposure to the contemporary challenges of globalization. The existing economic, social, and cultural resilience of our society is to a large measure influenced by the rising middle class. It is estimated that by 2020, half of the Indian population would comprise the middle classes even at the contemporary rate of the economic growth. Despite this, the challenges of globalization felt by India in early 1990s made it inevitable to change these policies. Of course, the difference of opinion on matters related to economic liberalization continues to persist. Patnaik analyzed the shift from the dirigist to a neoliberal economic strategy that has occurred in India since 1991. As regards the external push, they refer to certain basic changes that the world capitalism has undergone with the emergence of a new form of international finance capital, which sees the global promotion of neoliberalism as serving its interest. They explain the domestic social support base of reforms in India. This includes the Indian capitalist class, upper class, urban middle class, the NRIs, agricultural capitalist, and elements within the bureaucracy, intelligentsia. These sections of society are the supporters and beneficiaries of the reforms. Further, the interest of the domestic supports of reforms well coincided with the fund bank scheme of reforms to serve basically the interest of MNCs and globalized finance. Kothari also finds a convergence of external and domestic interests who are involved in pushing forward the reform agenda. No wonder reforms reflected broadly smooth sailing in India even after the 1991 crisis, as external forces could find junior partners at the domestic turf. At the domestic front, the attempt is to integrate the upper and the middle classes with the simple aim of retaining and enhancing the privileges and prerequisites of these classes. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.